Have you ever wondered what happens when a woman spends too much time alone? We often hear the phrase, solitude is strength, but could there be a darker side to it? In this video, we're diving deep into why a woman who constantly seeks solitude can be a powerful force, and why that might make her incredibly dangerous, not just to her enemies, but to herself as well. Stay tuned as we explore the hidden truths behind her independence, resilience, and the potential risks of isolation. A woman who always spends time alone, is she dangerous? In today's fast-paced world, we often hear phrases like solitude is strength, embrace your alone time, and you need to be comfortable with yourself. It's clear that we live in an era that champions independence, self-reliance, and personal space. However, when we take a deeper look at this idea, we have to ask, is being constantly alone really as healthy and empowering as we think? And more importantly, can a woman who always chooses solitude be dangerous? Now, before we rush to conclusions, let's dive deeper into what this truly means. Solitude in itself is not inherently harmful. In fact, spending time alone can be extremely beneficial. It gives us the chance to reflect, recharge, and focus on our own personal growth. But there's a fine line between choosing solitude for personal peace and withdrawing into isolation for longer periods of time. A woman who spends an extraordinary amount of time alone may be hiding more than just a desire for peace. What if, over time, solitude transforms into a fortress that she builds around herself? What if, over the course of her isolation, her mind begins to sharpen in a way that becomes almost dangerous? The longer she is alone, the more she learns to depend solely on herself. And here's where the danger begins to take shape: the rise of inner strength. When a woman spends time alone, she doesn't just waste time, she grows. She reflects, she becomes more self-awareness. She learns to rely on her own judgment, her own decisions, and her own inner strength. This can be empowering. No one to answer to, no one to hold her back, and no one to tell her what to do. But with this strength comes an undeniable transformation. The more time she spends by herself, the less dependent she becomes on others. She becomes less affected by the opinions of those around her. And while that sounds empowering on the surface, it's also a slippery slope. In the process of becoming self-sufficient, she may lose touch with the very connections that make us human: empathy, compassion, and the willingness to be vulnerable. And what happens when someone becomes so strong, so independent, that they no longer rely on others for anything? They stop asking for help, stop seeking advice, and stop fearing consequences. At this point, a woman who spends time alone is not just strong, she is free in a way that can make her unpredictable, unstoppable, and perhaps even dangerous. The dark side of isolation. Let's look deeper into the psychology of isolation. Spending too much time alone doesn't just build strength, it can also breed dark emotions. Loneliness, even if self-imposed, can stir up feelings of emptiness, sadness, and frustration. Over time, it can even lead to feelings of paranoia, bitterness, or resentment. And when those feelings are bottled up inside, without any outside influence to help balance them out, they can become toxic. The silent struggles that a woman faces in isolation may start as small insecurities or unresolved past trauma, but as she spends more time alone, these emotions fester and grow. She becomes more detached from reality, less able to process and deal with her emotions in healthy ways. She may become numb to the world around her, indifferent to the needs and struggles of others, focused solely on herself and her own pain. Imagine the danger in that. A woman so consumed by her own thoughts, her own fears, her own frustrations, that she becomes detached from everything that used to keep her grounded. She may begin to view the world as something to be conquered, not shared or nurtured. The deeper she falls into her own isolation, the more dangerous she becomes, not just to others, but to herself as well. Emotional independence, a double-edged sword. Emotional independence, while crucial for personal growth, can also be a double-edged sword. A woman who spends too much time alone can begin to convince herself that she doesn't need anyone, not a partner, not friends, and not even family. While some might view this as a triumph of strength, others might see it as a quiet descent into loneliness. The longer a woman remains emotionally independent, the harder it becomes to let others in. The more walls she builds around herself, the harder it becomes for anyone to break through. And when someone becomes so emotionally self-sufficient, there's a fear of being hurt or disappointed by others. So she continues to shut people out, maintaining her solitude as a shield. But here's where things get tricky. When a woman becomes emotionally independent to this degree, it's hard for her to ask for help, and that's a dangerous place to be. Because at some point, everyone needs others. We need to connect. We need empathy. And when a woman is so used to being alone, she may begin to push away anyone who tries to get close, keeping herself emotionally isolated and untouchable. The power of a silent force. A woman who always chooses solitude isn't just hiding from the world. She's transforming herself into something stronger, more self-reliant, and less predictable. The more time she spends alone, the more she learns to depend on her own instincts, intuition, and judgment. And when she's done transforming, when she's learned to trust herself above all else, she can become a force to be reckoned with. She will no longer wait for validation from anyone. She won't let anyone tell her what she can or cannot do. Her mind becomes a weapon. Her will becomes unstoppable. But here's the catch. A woman who is this self-sufficient, this emotionally untouchable, is dangerous because she doesn't need anyone. She's free from the constraints of expectations, and she can make decisions without worrying about the consequences. This unpredictability, this lack of attachment, makes her dangerous not just to those around her but to herself. The fine line between strength and danger. So is a woman who spends time alone dangerous? The truth is, it depends. It depends on how much time she spends alone, how well she balances solitude with connection, and whether she's using that time to grow or to isolate herself further. Solitude can be empowering when used to reflect, recharge, and develop inner strength. But if left unchecked, it can transform into something darker, a place where loneliness breeds bitterness, fear, and detachment. A woman who spends too much time alone may become a silent force, someone who is emotionally untouchable, highly self-reliant, and unpredictably dangerous. At the end of the day, the real question is, can she find a balance between independence and connection, strength and vulnerability? Because when a woman can embrace her solitude without letting it consume her, she becomes an unstoppable force capable of achieving anything she sets her mind to, and that is when she truly becomes a woman to be reckoned with. As we've explored today, the woman who spends too much time alone is not just someone seeking peace and quiet. She is someone on a transformative journey, building emotional resilience, strength, and independence. But the deeper she goes into isolation, the more unpredictable and powerful she becomes. While solitude can unlock incredible potential, it also carries the risk of detachment and emotional danger. So what can we learn from this? Solitude in moderation is a powerful tool for personal growth. But when we isolate ourselves too long, we risk losing touch with the very things that make us human: connection, empathy, and vulnerability. To become our strongest selves, we need to strike a balance between embracing our inner power and maintaining meaningful relationships. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Are you using your alone time to recharge and grow, or have you started building walls that keep others out? It's time to find that balance. Challenge yourself to embrace both your strength and your connections. Reach out to those who matter, while also nurturing the independent spirit inside you. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this message today, and let's continue the conversation in the comments below. How do you balance solitude and connection in your life? Let's talk about it.